Well, hey everybody, we're getting ready for God of Moses, week 3, when faith hits a brick wall. And in this message, what we're looking at is that in our pursuit of God, we might have a lot of highs. Hopefully we'll have a lot of highs. We'll have a lot of high moments where things go well in our pursuit of God, but we'll also experience failures and frustrations. And that's what happened to Moses. Because in Exodus chapter 4, in this message we go through chapter 4 through chapter 6, we see that Moses returns to Egypt and he returns to his people, the Israelites, with a message that God has given him, with the miracles that God has given him, and that's a real high point. You know, he's a hero. Things are going well for him. As you talk about that in the message, that's a good point to create some illustrations, some common ground, to talk about moments when you've maybe been the hero, maybe moments in life like coaching a kid's soccer team or something where you've won and things were going well and everyone was excited and on your side. And then spiritually, you know, when you become a Christian, when you successfully lead a small group or your family devotionals. I mean, there's a lot of ways in which you can have a high moment, you can win in your pursuit of God. But what often happens in our pursuit of God is that we experience failure. That faith hits a brick wall. And so that's what happens to Moses. He goes to Pharaoh and he says, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh says, "I don't know who you are. I don't know who your God is. I'm not going to let my slaves go." And in fact, you know, as you know in the story, it says that Pharaoh makes it harder on the Israelites as slaves, and so the Israelites turn on Moses. And this is real failure. It's real disappointment for Moses. And I think it's important in the message to connect that for people, to show how we can have real disappointment in our pursuit of God. Whether that means you become a Christian, you're excited to tell people about Jesus, you're talking to your family about Jesus, and instead of being excited and turning to Him, they ignore you. Or maybe it's you feel like God has called you to do something, you feel like God has called you to start a small group, to start a mentoring group, and you just can't get it going. Or maybe you just have some sin in your life that you're dealing with, and you have some victory, but then that victory goes away. Whatever it is, our faith might hit a brick wall, and so I think making that real for people. And then as we talk about that, what happens in Moses' story, in case you're wondering, I'm outside of my house and there are cars passing me by, in case you hear that, but what happens in Moses' story is that he kind of turns on God a bit. He's disappointed with God, and he lets God know how he feels. He lets him know about his angers and his frustrations. And that's an important moment for us to talk about in the message, about how we can be real with God. We can be real with God about our emotions and our feelings, walking that fine line of being real about our emotions, but without turning disrespectful on God. We need to always remember who God is. And so I think it would be good in the message to share a time of honest disappointment that you've experienced, honest disappointment before God, where you were just like, "God, I don't understand why you're allowing this to happen. God, I don't know why this is going on," and share that story, maybe not in great detail, certainly, but I know just to help connect with people, to know that as a preacher, you really are, you've experienced what you're talking about. And then, of course, the last point is that the whole point of this and these failures and these crises are that we would understand more of who God is, that we would turn to God, that we would turn to God because of His character and His ability to act. Because, you know, sometimes in life you simply have to trust in God to act. You don't have any more options, and that's what Moses experienced. And so in Exodus chapter 6, God says 5 times, He says, "I am," and He explains to Moses who He is. And then 8 times He says, "Moses, I will," and He explains to Moses how He's going to act on behalf of Israel and fulfill His promises. And so I think as you explain that, I think even just to have your Bible open and to just read off a few of those, you know, we don't have slides for them, but to read off a few of those verses where God says, I am who He is, and I will, and what He's going to do. And then to share an example from your own life or from someone close to you who has experienced God's power, God's presence, and that in the midst of your failures and disappointments, that's an opportunity to get close to God, to get intimate with Him, to know who He is, and to find the answers for all your frustrations in Him. And so certainly there's a lot of connections to the gospel for that as you face the disappointments and failures in life. And so those are just a few tips. It's a lot of great story, it's a lot of great detail, but really I think it's an opportunity to be real with people as we explore disappointment with God and how to find faith in Him.